Hello, students. Yesterday, we started a new chapter that is biodiversity. In yesterday's class, we explained the definition of biodiversity and also various levels of biodiversity, that is, genetic level of biodiversity, that means subspecies level of biodiversity, and the second one is species biodiversity, and the last one is community biodiversity. And after finishing that topic, we explained magnitude of biodiversity. In that, I also explained very clearly about the distribution of organisms in a given geographical area in a very simple and easy charts in graphical representations, which are very important, many times asked in the exam. Now today's class I am going to explain about patterns of biodiversity. Before you go to the details of this topic, patterns of biodiversity, one key point you need to understand: biodiversity is not uniform. It is not uniformly distributed throughout the world. This is a very important point. That means, let us take the earth planet. Now you can be able to see different types of climatic zones. For example, if you travel to some Jammu and Kashmir, then you can be able to see very cold climatic regions. Now if you start traveling towards any hot area, like let us take what do you call UP, and also some Rajasthan, then you can be able to see very high degrees of centigrade of temperature. That means the climatic variations you can be able to see in this earth planet. Throughout the earth planet, same type of climatic conditions you can never be able to notice. Always it changes. Hope you understand. So because this change in the temperature, obviously it influences the distribution of the species. This is a very important point that you need to clearly understand. Again, just I'm giving a very short recap. Earth can never be able to maintain the same climatic conditions. So because of the varied climatic conditions, because the temperature, it has a very prominent role on the distribution of the species distribution changes according to the temperature. Hope you understood my point. Now there are two key factors that decides the distribution, that means pattern of biodiversity. That is, the first one is latitude. What is latitude? If you start traveling from equator to the poles, so distance from equator to the poles, then that is called as latitude. Whereas altitudes means from bottom, that means from height from the sea level. If you, for example, if you take a mountain, as you go up, if you start climbing up, then that is called as altitude. Heights, it is called as altitude, whereas the distance from equator, it is called as latitude. Hope you got my point. So latitude and altitude, these are the two key factors that decides the pattern of biodiversity. Now let us start the first one: latitude pattern of biodiversity. Now in this you can be able to clearly notice, as you move from high to low altitudes, that means from poles to the equator, the biological diversity, the biodiversity, it increases. That means I'll show you. To explain this point only, I brought this graphical representation. Let us take, this is a earth planet. So this complete circle, this whole circle, you consider it is our earth planet. This is our globe. Now let us somewhere here just assume, because I did not made that circle, so I'm sorry for that. So here let us imagine here, please follow this arrow mark, then you will understand. Somewhere here you can be able to see the sun. So imagine this is sun. Now this sun obviously propagate light. Now you follow this arrow mark from sun straight, you can be able to see the light received by this area. Hope you got my point. So here it is near to the sun. Did you notice it or not? So it can be able to receive plenty amount or good amount of the solar energy. That's why here you can be able to see more vegetation, more flora and also fauna. When I use the word vegetation, you please apply it for both plants and also animals. So both flora and also fauna. Because why? More productivity is there, because more sunlight. So obviously more sunlight, more productivity, more productivity, more species will depend upon that productivity. So you can be able to say rich vegetation here. What is the meaning of here? That is equator. See, exactly center of this earth planet, it is called as equator. And just 23.5 north up and also 23.5 south down. So this particular regions have plenty of sunlight, so plenty of productivity. So plenty of productivity, obviously it increases plenty of the species, it attracts plenty of the species. That's why the vegetation can be seen more in equator and also in tropic regions. Got my point? Now you start traveling from equator to this up. When you go up, you crosses the tropic region where the number of the species, it obviously increases. As just now, just 2 minutes back I told, here the plenty of sunlight receiving is there, because it is receiving very very good amount quality sunlight. Obviously the productivity is also increased. As productivity is increased, it obviously attract various number of species. That's why the number of species are more in equator and also tropic regions. Now you start traveling up. Now when you are going up, now slowly you are entering into the temperate region. That means again go back. So somewhere here, hope you remember, I imagined here, I told you to imagine some sun here. So now here sun is there. Now again it is propagating light. Now see the distance, it is increased. Did you notice it or not? So the distance, but here the distance it is less, but here the distance it increased. That's why here it cannot be able to receive the sunlight properly. That's why the temperature it will drop. When the temperature it is dropping, obviously more vegetation you can't be able to see, because more productivity, because the temperature it is going down, because the sunlight is less, temperature is less. When temperature is less, productivity is also less. When productivity is less, obviously the distribution of the species is also less. Go see, everything is linked. See, sunlight is less, point number 1. Point number 2, temperature is less. Point number 2, temperature is less, that's why productivity is also less. Point number 3, now productivity is less because the species also less. This is point number 4. So everything is interlinked. You are thinking just sunlight, but that sunlight is a great factor, that a temperature is a great factor that decides the productivity. And you are thinking just productivity, but that productivity, food it decides the number of species. And for example, if I keep you in an area which is rich with so many bungalows, a lot of what I call servants, lot of wealth like gold and also money, but there is no food to eat, then what happens? You tell me. You can't be able to stay. You the nice bungalow is there, and also servants are there, gold is there, and also some money is there, but still you can't be able to survive because there is no food. So how much you have, whatever you have, food is a basic constituent, is a basic need. Food and water are the basic needs of the organism. So apart leaving this food, if, for example, if I give you 10 kgs of gold, it won't be sufficient. You can't be able to survive by just by seeing the gold. These are all gives a temporary happiness. But ultimately, wherever you go, you have to eat and you have to drink. And that is a basic need for every living organism. See, even a dog, even an ant, throughout the day it works. Throughout the day it roam on the roads just for one roti. So one ant, it throughout the day, it somewhere it moves here, there to get small grain particle, just to fill its tummy. This is a very important point. And that productivity, it will be decided by the sunlight. Such sunlight, it is very less received in temperate region. That's why there is a number of species is very very less. See, this a down arrow mark, it indicates the species it is decreasing, whereas the up arrow mark, it is indicating the increase in the number of the species. This you need to understand. Now let us take still more up. That means you start traveling again a little more up. Then what happens? You will reach to the poles. That means, see, Again go back here, again you may imagine the sunlight. Now the sun, it is propagating light. Now you see, you follow this arrow mark, even still it became more far. See, like this, it became too much far from the sunlight. That's why what happens here, the temperature is still more. Already temperate region mein you observed a drop in the temperature, but here you can be able to see still more decline, still more decrease in the temperature. That means here I can say here very less temperature, whereas here minus degrees, sometimes even it may go to minus 4 degrees centigrade, frozen conditions. That means you can imagine how temperature drop, temperature decline you can be able to notice in the north poles and also south poles. Directly you call poles. That means poles may completely dropped minus degree centigrade. You can be able to see such a less temperature, obviously such a less sunlight, so such a less temperature, so such a less productivity, obviously less productivity, less number of species. That means, see, complete today's lesson, it is revolving around sun, temperature, productivity, species, these 4 points. From the beginning, did you observe my lesson or not? Right from the beginning, try to recollect my lesson. I am revolving around these 4 points only. Sun propagates light. If the sun propagating light, that light it will be received by the earth planet, but the earth planet cannot be able to receive the light in an equal manner, in the equal ratio. The equator region and also tropic region, as they are near to this sun, they are receiving more sunlight. Because more sunlight, good temperature. Because good temperature, good productivity. And good productivity, good number of species. Now as you go up, as they are far from the sun, they are receives less sunlight. Less sunlight, less temperature. Less temperature, less productivity. Less productivity, less number of species. Now again you go up, this is still more far, even more far from the sun. That's why completely minus degree centigrade, so less sunlight, very less temperature, very less vegetation. So this is called latitudinal pattern of biodiversity. Hope you understood very clearly. Try to memorize this particular graphical representation, obviously you will understand. And one key point you need to understand is this up arrow mark indicates the number of species are more, this a down arrow mark it indicates the number of species are less, and this a two down arrow marks indicates even more less number of species. This point if you understand, it is very easy to learn or memorize this particular graphical representation, that is latitudinal pattern of biodiversity. But just this explanation is not sufficient for you students. That's why I brought three examples. Now let us discuss one after other, then you will little more understand very clearly. Now let us go for the first example. The first example is a forest. See students, this is a sentence form, and this sentence form I brought it like this, I made it like this in a tabular form, so that you can clearly understand. See, instead of reading this, if you read this, this will give more clarity than this sentences. Now there is a forest which is near the tropical region like equator. Now what he is telling na, here, that means there is a forest which is near the equator. So the equator means what? Hope you remember, this is a region where plenty of the sunlight, so plenty of the productivity. So now in contrast to that, there is one region, temperate region like midwest of USA. That means what he's telling, there is one more forest which is present in the temperate region somewhere in the midwest of USA. See, that means here this arrow mark I am showing now, somewhere here you can be able to see the temperate region forest which is in midwest of USA. On other hand, he is telling there is one more forest which is near the equator. Now let us take the example. What is the example is telling? The forest which is near the equator, it is having 10 times more species of vascular plants. Whereas here in midwest of USA, which is near the tropic region, here only one x species of vascular plants. That means here you can be able to see 10 vascular plants, then here you can be able to see only one vascular plant. Did you notice the example? That means here sunlight is more, that's why temperature is more, that's why more vascular plants. Whereas here temperature, sunlight is less, temperature is less, that's why for every 10 plants in tropic region and only one plant in temperate region. Now you understood? That only I am telling now, right from the beginning today's class. Right from the beginning, what am I telling? Temperature, if more sunlight is there, more temperature, more temperature, more productivity, more productivity, more species. That's why here more species, that means a 10x. That means for every 10 vascular plants of tropic region, only one plant can be seen in temperate region. That means 9 vascular plants are decreasing. 9, not even half it is decreased. 90% decline you can be able to see in the temperate region when you compare the forest of temperate region to the forest of the tropical region. See how important you need to understand the contribution of temperature in the species diversity. That is a key point. I mean that right from the beginning, to explain this point only I am telling all these examples. Hope you got my point. Now for our understanding, little more clear understanding, we will take second example. Let us go for second example. I think so you understood the first example. Now what is the second example? Let us see. Now there is one more example, that is Colombia, which is near equator, which is having 1400 species of the birds. Whereas India, which is near tropic latitude, that means if you want to show, I will show. So Colombia, it is in equator, so this is equator. Whereas India, it is in tropic region. Now what he is telling, equator, that means good amount of sunlight and temperature. That's why 1400 species of the birds. Whereas little go up, that means the tropic region, India mein 1200 species of birds. See, because it is little up. Now if you go to temperate region, I'll show you. New York, which is a temperate region, only 105 species of the birds. Whereas if you go little more up, that means Greenland, you can be able to see only 56 species of the birds. Did you notice it or not? That means from the equator, the number of the species, it starts decreasing, 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 decreasing. Now this same example, for your understanding, I made a tabular form. Colombia near equator has more number of bird species, 1400. Whereas when you compare to the tropic, now here India may only 1200 bird species, whereas New York only 105 bird species. Whereas in Greenland, still more, very very less, that is 56 bird species. That means it is again clearly indicating, as you start traveling from equator to the poles, you can be able to see slowly slowly the distribution of the species, it will decrease. That is an important point what you need to understand. Now let us take, for little more understanding, we will take third example, that is tropical Amazon rainforest, which is in South America, has a great biodiversity, because I already told you tropic regions which is near to the sun, so temperature is good. That's why you can be able to see great biodiversity. What is the biodiversity? Let us see. 40,000 species of plants. 40,000 species. Can you imagine? But it is true. Whereas 3,000 fishes, and 3,000 fishes means species of fishes. 3,000 fishes means very very less. Please understand. 3,000 species of fishes. 1,300 species of birds, and 427 species of mammals, and again 427 species of amphibians, 378 species of reptiles, and 1,25,000. You just imagine, 1,25,000 invertebrate species are there in this tropical Amazon rainforest located at South America. That means tropical region, more favorable climatic zones. That means clearly you can be able to see the zone variations, sorry, climatic variations. Summer, it looks like a summer, you can feel it is a summer. Winter, you feel it is a winter. And if you take A rainy season, you feel it is a rainy season. Now if you go polar region, throughout the jindagi, throughout the lifespan, you can experience only one season, that is winter season. Hope you understand. See, when the climatic conditions are static, it cannot be able to favor the growth of the organisms. For a very very simple, every day I start feeding you with what else, dal rice. Maybe dal rice is very tasty, but still, if I every day twice in a day, if I start feeding you with the dal rice, will you be able to adjust? One day, if you don't give me food also, that is okay, but don't give me this, you will say. Am I correct or not? That means organisms need the climatic changes so that they start adapting, and adaptability it increases, so that the intensity, the power, the capacity, the vigor and vitality of that organism it greatly increases. That is a very very important point what you need to understand. Now let us discuss why tropics have more or high diversity than any other regions like a temperate and polar. Very very simple, there is more solar energy available in tropics. See again, घूम के same point में आ गया. Tropic region में you can be able to see more sunlight availability, so more productivity, so obviously great diversity. See again, घूम के again the same point. Now, decrease in the species at altitudes, because for every 1,000 meters increase in altitude, it results in the temperature drop. When the temperature drop it is there, for every 1,000 meters, 6.5 degrees centimeter degrees of temperature it is decreasing. As the temperature decreases, obviously decrease in the number of species. So, latitudinal and also altitudinal gradients of the species diversity are the two master gradients. These are the two key factors. So, altitude and also latitude. These two are the key factors that it decides the distribution of the temperature, the distribution of the species. Now, let us make a summary. Decrease in the species diversity from equator to the poles. So this is a summary of the latitudinal pattern of biodiversity. Hope you understood what is a latitudinal pattern of biodiversity. Very very important, and especially these examples are very important than the concept. Examples are very very important, so don't forget to read these examples, and one or two times if you practice it becomes easy. When you listen anything for the first time, it makes a little difficulty, but same thing if you start practicing just 2 3 times, it becomes more easy. See, it is very difficult to remember these numbers 1400, 1200. Just write it twice, maximum thrice, then you will understand very easily. How am I teaching? So for example, now I'm using this slides, but when I come to the class, how I teach, because when we practice it becomes easy. Just by seeing this, if you get feared and if you don't practice, then you never get the points. So please practice just 2 3 times. If you practice everything, it becomes used to you, and everything it becomes easy to you. So hope you understand. Now let us take the second topic of today, that is species area relationship. Before I start this topic, I will tell one very very common and simple example. Imagine our classroom is there. Our classroom capacity is 50 students. Chalo, happily 50 students are sitting in that class and happily they listen to the class. Now, what happened, due to some whatever the reason, some class students they started adding into this class. 10 students were added. Somehow you are good students, so you adjust with that new friends. Okay, for 1 or 2 days only we have to adjust, so no problem. Now 60 students, diri diri it increased to 70 students. What is the capacity of the classroom? 50. 60 somehow you adjusted, 70 you can't adjust, but still due to respect or fear, whatever it may be, you don't express. For example, if I add 5 more students, 6 more students, 10 more students, then you start crying, you start complaining. Am I correct or not? That means what am I trying to tell you is every area has its own capacity to tolerate the number of species. How a classroom has capacity to tolerate the number of students. See, one classroom has capacity a maximum 50 or 60 students. For example, the classroom where it gives the space for 50, 60 students. If I make 100 students to sit, obviously no one can be able to be comfortable in that class. Like that, if you if you take any area, it has capacity to accommodate or fit maximum some number of species only. If you keep on adding more number of species, obviously you can't be able to see the growth in that particular area. First of all, area cannot be able to accommodate that number of organisms, and this was noticed by a German naturalist and also geographer. He is a naturalist and also geographer. His name is Alexander von Humboldt. Alexander von Humboldt, he is a one who understood or noticed species area relationship. That means every area has its own limit to accommodate the number of species. Where while he is exploring in South American jungles, South American forest, he clearly observed species richness increases with increasing explored area, but only up to a limit. That means what he's telling, yes, the species can be able to accommodate in an area, but if keep on adding, you can't be able to tolerate. Am I correct or not? For example, I'll tell you, you like sweet. I'll give you 10 gulab jamuns. Happily you eat 10 gulab jamuns. At least you can eat, if I'm correct. Now, you, because you like the sweet, if I give you 15 gulab jamuns, somehow you will handle. Because out of that taste, out of that particular interest towards that sweet, obviously you can manage 15. If I give 20, if I give 25, if I give 30, you will say, you will throw even gulab jamuns. Don't feed me, don't ever give me this gulab jamuns, you will say. Why? Arey, it is your favorite dish, na? Why can't you eat 100? If you eat 100, you will die. Am I correct or not? Like that. Yes, area can accommodate a number of species, but it has its own limit. It is accepting add. If you keep on adding like that, obviously one point it will come. It cannot be able to accommodate any number of species. Hope you understood. So let us take species richness increases with increasing exploring area, but up to certain limit. Hope you understood the statement. Now, this relationship between species richness and explored area is a rectangular hyperbola described by a very simple equation, that is S is equal to Ca to the power of Z. What is it? What is this equation indicates? S means species richness. That means how many number of species. A means it is area. C means y-intercept, whereas Z, it indicates the slope of the line. See, the slope of the line. Hope you understand. And it shows a rectangular hyperbola. Now, the same equation, S is equal to Ca to the power of Z. Now, if you convert into logarithmic scale, now the same equation, now you are converting into log scale, then log s is equal to log c plus z log a. So this is how it will convert. That means what it is indicating. Then when you convert it into logarithm, then you can be able to say straight line. No, when you are calculating by using this formula, you will get this hyperbola. Hope you got my point. Where one thing you need to understand, z value, it always ranges from 0.1 to 0.2. Now, you understood. Hope you at least half you understood. Now I will make you to understand 100% very clearly. Now let us take this graph, and then I'll explain, then you will clearly understand. Now let us take, this is a x line, this is area. Hope you understood. This is area. Let us take this area name is let us take Chennai. So this Chennai, in this Chennai, many species are adding. So species richness, so many species. See, happily the area it is accommodating many species. Now at a point what happened, the species it became more, then it started becoming static. That means further if you increase, also it cannot be able to accept. That means what happens here, The increase in the area, obviously it gives more space to the more species, but up to a limit. Now you understood. Now if you take logarithmic scale also, now area, species increased. Now at a point it stops. That means it completed its capacity to accommodate more number of species. आगे नहीं बढ़ता है. You can't be able to see more increase, further increase in the number of species, because this area has this much limit only. That is the meaning of this graph. Hope you understood what is the relationship between species area in terms of the distribution or in terms of the number of organisms. Hope you understood. Today I explained about latitudinal pattern of biodiversity, and the second one is a species area relationship. Very very important concepts. Actually, biodiversity, basically it is a very very important chapter. Many questions are coming almost every year. Two questions are coming out of biodiversity almost every year. Of course, if you are lucky, more number of questions will come, but minimum two questions, that means 8 marks, like you are secured. If you are reading biodiversity thoroughly, that means 8 marks for sure, guaranteed marks. So very very important concepts I'm explaining. Hope you are understanding these concepts. If you don't understand, don't hesitate to ask me. And thank you so much, and tomorrow I'll come up with one more new topic. Okay.